Hello. Cheers. What you got? Red Solo Cup.
I got water, but I want to give a cheers to Tito's, sponsored by Tito's. Cheers to Justin Wilcox for slamming it down Chip Kelly and UCLA's throat, embarrassing them. I mean, honestly, they got on a day when Jonathan Smith, who UCLA should have hired, goes to now a conference rival. Like that it would have been no big deal 5 years ago, but you're going to play that team now. And he, from your area, he clearly had to leave. No fault of his own or even his school's own. They just got left. He has no choice. And it was right there for you. Hell, a couple weeks ago, they're like, he's done. And you're like, well, Jonathan, it started making sense. You just let him go. Obviously, he has to. He can't just wait for someone else to get fired. It might not happen. But what a mistake. Casey Wasserman is in love with Chip Kelly for whatever reason, funds the whole program. And now they're stuck with a guy 7-5.
What's funny is I'd heard from some UCLA people like 2 weeks ago that Wasserman and some of the money people were like, we're like tired of it, tired of losing. But maybe it was the money people, except for Wasserman, who, is the money guy.
But he's always backed Chip with Troy Aikman. Well, they did originally. I don't know how.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm just saying, like, a UCLA guy told me 2 weeks ago that like they were fed, like the money people were fed up with UCLA football. But
he lost to Arizona State, who is objectively awful, and Cal kicked his ass.
Well, did you see what pissed Cal off?
No.
Jerry Neuheisel, poor Jerry. He's not the head coach. I don't know why he had to do it, but they put out a video. UCLA did, like on Friday, of Jerry saying, "Hey fans, we love you. Thanks for your support. We want to invite all of you onto the field after the game. After the game against Cal on Saturday, come on down to the field. Get onto the Rose Bowl turf. It'll be a celebration." And after the game, a lot of Cal players were tweeting that this was their motivation. That basically, when you invite your fans to the field after the game, you're saying that you're about to win the game. I mean, but what was it, 33-6 or something like that? Brought to you by Tito's Handmade Vodka. Sorry, John, I'll interrupt you just to say Tito's Handmade Vodka. They're the sponsor of this show. We appreciate them. Somebody sent me a photo of them watching football, holding the Tito's up to the screen. Whatever you're doing with Tito's, the holiday season's not done. It continues. You take it to somebody's house. You have people over to your house. You have the Tito's ready. America's original craft vodka, numero uno. Award on top of award on top of award. Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly. What else you got?
One thing I like about the NIL, like in the NFL, you pay Trent a lot of money. You pay Debo a lot of money. You pay George, Fred. You know what you're getting. Like, you pay a really good player. They're usually just really good. You watch the Eagles-Bills game, Josh, Jalen, A.J. Brown, you name it. It's like they're worth all the pennies you're paying them. In college, I just could never do NIL to recruits. I mean, I wouldn't be into that game. Even Dion was like, yeah, we're probably out of that game. Where I would be is that running back at Cal, Jaden Ott. Listen, I was texting a couple people last night. I guess he said a lot of loyal things to Cal. I can't imagine that schools like Texas, Alabama, Oregon, and USC, obviously he lit up USC, wouldn't pay that guy like $500,000, wouldn't treat him like Jordan Addison. I mean, he's got to be one of the best running backs. I don't know how he's not going to get offers that are just going to be very difficult to turn down.
Again, I mean, he did last year. Cal had to take care of him last year. They already had to do it once. They lost a receiver last year, but they kept him.
Feels like it's going to be more difficult this year because he is clearly, honestly, looks like the best running back.
Like, I don't like, he looked every bit the part last year. If you were like, from like the football scouting guys, but yeah, he just led the league in rushing on a team that struggled to throw the ball. I mean, everyone knew he was going to carry the ball.
He had a kickoff return last night that went. I just don't understand. If I'm USC, whatever I paid Jordan Addison, like, you could just pay a number that Cal's probably not going to be able to match. But again, I don't even. It could be Ohio State. It could be Jordan. I think that all the teams with unlimited budgets, like if you told me he was a starting running back at Ohio State next year,
there's no question. But I mean, but again, like that's like a 12-month-old. Like that, they already tried. Everyone already tried once. They just got to come back with more money.
But I would imagine it kind of, because he wasn't. I was looking up last night. Wasn't the biggest recruit. Obviously, was good as a freshman. I think now you get 2 years of film, way more buzz. Like, was Ohio State trying? Was Michigan trying? Was Alabama trying? Like, I don't see how they don't.
No, I'm agreeing. I'm just saying they're not. This isn't sneaking up on them. Like, they got him once, And I would imagine the second they got him to stay, they're like, oh, fuck, we're going to have to do this again next year. Right?
I guess my point is, I wonder if the teams that hit him up, which could have been Oregon and USC, even quadruples in like, wait, who's on the phone? Like Nick Saban wants to talk to you.
Right. I mean, it's pretty crazy. You look around, like the nation's best running. Who are the nation's best running backs this year? Right. It's like the kid at Oklahoma State, Blake Corum at Michigan. Doesn't feel like there's a top, there's definitely nothing close to a Saquon. And this guy's not Saquon, but he's like a really unique NFL back because he's not McCaffrey either. He's not that thick, but he can kind of run between the tackles, but he's also just dynamic pass catcher on the perimeter. Like, he's a really unique player.
He can fly.
And yeah, he can really fly. I know. He's fast. Boy, did you hate watch Cal UCLA in like a 20-point blowout on Saturday night?
A little bit. A little bit. Partly because like that's honestly Cal's built a lot like a Big Ten team, right?
Yeah, they
like
want
the way they're gonna play. Like that's never been Chip. I can't imagine they're thrilled with the way they're all headed. The way the season ended.
It fell apart. I mean, they looked like they were hot. Fell apart. Good toast. Justin Wilcox, great guy.
Yeah. Saw Brian Harsin retweeting him.
Brian Harsin, yeah. San Diego State's open. Boise's going to the championship game with an interim in the Mountain West.
Do you think those jobs? One other take before we get in the NFL. You're with the Mountain West talking to my guy Skipper last night, Tedford, who is a pretty rare, I would say, in 2023 Mountain West coach. Maybe a little more normal, older version in the previous Power 5 setup. It feels like this new setup where we're headed. Is it going to be harder for them to get coaches?
I really, I've been thinking a lot about that, and we'll see because you can pay guys. But like, I was thinking about it watching.
What do you mean?
Well, let me give you an example. Reading The Athletic today, they had like a breakdown of every job and every story they've written about like candidates for jobs. And so I was just reading Sunday morning about the San Diego State job. And it's like Ryan Grubb, Washington. Well, Ryan Grubb, Alabama tried to hire him last year. Washington kept him. He's making whatever he's making, $1.5 million, maybe it's $2 million. I mean, he's making more than Washington's ever paid a coordinator. It's great money. They're about,
Is he the highest paid coordinator in the conference?
He might be. But like, to be a head coach in the Mountain West right now, still they can pay you like $3.5 million, and you get your own program. But it feels like, how are you gonna really succeed? Like, how are you gonna really do it with like your roster changing every year? I've been in these meetings for the last month with these coaches before I call these games, and they'll be like, "This guy's gonna be a stud. This guy's gonna be a stud." And I said, like, do you want me to say that for this like freshman that's only played 2 games for you that there's not a lot of tape on? Do you want people to know that you think this guy's going to be a stud? Because he could be in the portal in 3 days. Like, he could be gone. They lose players nonstop. So I'm with you. It's hard to get players, but there's always been a certain number of players and a certain number of teams. It's just hard to develop players, right? You can get guys, but developing and continuity is going to be the challenge. But for the coaches,
keeping.
Yeah, right. I mean, you just used to be able to get a guy, develop him. And by your senior year, his junior year, you could go win 11 games. But the coaching thing, I'm with you. I really wonder about it. Now, at the end of the day, if as long as I can pay you more to be my head coach than somebody else's coordinator, which not every school, if that guy's a coordinator at Alabama, you might not be able to. The desire to be a head coach is still a pretty strong pull. To have your own program. There's only so many of those jobs, right? And ultimately,
I do think it's more challenging now than ever, though.
No question. I'm just saying, if you're making the argument, why would guys take jobs? Well, $4 million still don't suck, and you still get to be a head coach of your own program. I mean, that would be the reason, right? And you never know dynamics with coordinators. Do they want to be answering to their head coach? Those dynamics can always be a little fun.
Which clearly that dude in Washington likes the guy, right?
Yeah, they're boys. They go way back.
Yeah, so that matters. If you're working for Saban, or did you see the story today on the Giants that Wink and Daboll hate each other and they haven't talked? I guess there was an issue a couple weeks ago with a corner, like, said the defensive scheme was shitty. I don't know exact McKinney, the Bama guy's comments. Then the following week, he must have made like a game-winning play. Daboll had him break down the team. And I guess part of the Glazer report was like, that was a shot. Well, then today, Daboll gives him Wink the game ball, right? And then they ask after, do you guys have any disagreements? And Daboll, classic kind of fat guy humor. The only thing they argue over is the last piece of pizza. I mean, it's just when you're a fat guy, it's so easy to drop when you're both fat. Like Andy's had that in the bag forever. He could always did Terrell Owens try to slit your tires? No, he just coming down to get my extra chips in the back of the car. It's just always a pitch you have.
Yeah, didn't notice I was eating.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I don't think this stuff just gets, you just look at those two guys. You're like, I can see them not liking each other.
Yeah. Wink definitely feels like, you're the head coach of the defense. The offensive guy, leave me alone.
Wink's a big ego guy. I think that's one thing that Fangio, what makes him really unique is he could be like a good soldier while being the number 2 and he knows he's valuable. Maybe he's just like, I'm being paid $5 million for my role. I'm not going to try to act like an idiot. Well, I think Wink, he got ran out of Baltimore because him and Harbaugh butted heads.
He does pick some it's not like Harbaugh's known as an easygoing guy, John, right?
But he's good. Like that's part of it. Like I think he
100%.
knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like could Kyle deal with that type guy?
I was watching the Colts today and was like, could Kyle coach Minshew or would he want to kill him? Because Minshew can play. But
they're the 7 seed right now?
I did not know that. I haven't looked at the standings yet.
Yeah, they're 6-5.
He can play.
Bills lost.
He can play. Speaking of guys who could have been coaches. So yeah, I did catch that Bills game, John. That was a great Sunday afternoon. Niners next opponent. What came out of that game? The
number 1 seed's kind of this. I hate to say it. This game's not as important with them winning to them. I'm not saying it's not important, but they had to win 2 out of the 3 games. Chiefs, Bills, Niners. Going into that Cowboy game, I think they feel pretty good. Where they're, they might just be out of gas by the time it just does not mean as much to them. It means a lot to the Niners, but it's hard for me to act like this is some big game for the Eagles. I'm not saying it's not, but they just fucking beat the Chiefs and Bills in pretty crazy fashion. And now they have a 2-game lead on the 49ers. So it's like, even if the Niners win, they're still looking up at these guys. As the Lions
it can end even if you beat them, it can still, and you feel like, all right, they're 10-1, Niners are 8-3. You beat them, you're 9-3, they're 10-2. So you're a game back with the head-to-head tiebreaker. They play the Cowboys the next week. If they beat Dallas, even then it feels like, all right, are they going to go lose to Seattle? Are they play the Giants 2 out of the last 3 and the Cardinals? Like their schedule after they play Dallas is, they'll be heavy favorites in all 4 of those games. So if you beat them, there's still a shot though. Like if you lose to them, then it's definitely over. And I'm with you. It feels like, how is this team going to lose 2 games here down the stretch? And one of them has to be to you if you're the Niners. If you're going to get that head-to-head tiebreak, and they're
okay,
but 2 games.
But even if you beat them and then they lose to Dallas, the Niners to sustain it would have to run the table.
Yeah, they got to go beat the Ravens.
They can't slip up. But
right.
they
have no margin shot if that happens.
You have a shot, but it's still. Today was a.
Well, you just said it.
It felt like it was over. I mean, you're watching that game. Jalen looks like shit. You're like, God, the Bills are going to beat the shit out of them. And one thing that Jalen does better than any quarterback in the league is no one looks as shitty and then flips a switch and then by the end of the game, you're like, God damn, he's fucking awesome down the stretch.
The arsonist and the firefighter. Somebody tweeted that at me today. I always love that it's true. But I texted our buddy Dickinson. I'm like, the one thing I know about Jalen, he can be or maybe I texted this to you. He can be a 50% passer, but he's going to make 3 or 4 plays that are just. And today, I think whatever he was, like 55%. But he had like 3 basically game-winning drives. I mean, it was just ridiculous.
Well, he had a stretch where he had 4 passes and 3 touchdowns. Like he had 4 pass stretch.
Yeah, after the go-ahead score, is that what it was? That stretch?
Yeah, well, they were down 24-14. Then he went touchdown pass after a big run, picked Josh Allen, touchdown pass. So all of a sudden they're down 24-14. They did this against the Cowboys too. They're up 28-4 or 24. You're like, this team, what the fuck? And at any moment they have so many good players Their secondary is not great, but Reddick can look like he slammed Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen is enormous. I know he horse collared or whatever. He slammed him. You're like, God, this guy's ferocious.
Yeah.
What if that was Brock?
That's exactly what I thought too.
Brock has to be very, very careful with that guy. Their D tackles, he can kind of see come and hit the ground. That guy can come with a speed. Obviously, their D tackles run fast too, but that guy to me ruined the game last year. To me, is kind of their wild card because of his speed. And let's face it, Josh is faster than Brock, right? He's bigger, stronger, faster. But like he's also is more arrogant moving around. Yeah. Brock's pretty arrogant moving around. That you got to be very, very careful with these guys, with those D linemen. At any moment, they can throw you on the ground so hard to hurt you.
Brock has to protect himself by getting the ball out quickly. Like that's his best protection.
What if it's pouring rain? What if it's that environment?
We haven't even got to the rain. There's like 5 different things we can go down the list here. The first is just what you just said. When Brock threw the touchdown to Ayuk last week, or on Thursday night, that was the touchdown that was crazy, right? The one dropped it in between 4 guys. If you go back and watch, Brock it's a designed kind of roll left set up, kind of like the play got hurt on, except he rolls further to the left than the play got hurt on. And he almost gets hit off the front side edge, right on the arm. Like it's if that guy's Hassan Reddick, he probably gets to him. And it was a risky. Now he got the ball out. He got it out on time. He doesn't get hit. The guy pulls up, doesn't hit him in the arm, doesn't get there. But it was just such a great example of how thin the margin is on the plays that you dial up that are supposed to work. Because with this team, their quarterback makes all kinds of shit happen. And the Niners, by and large, are let's design it to happen. But part of the design is you got to block Hassan Reddick. You got to block Jalen Carter, who looked like that play he got hurt on that I trying to chase down.
No, that was his teammate from Georgia, Jordan Davis.
Oh, Jordan Davis. Well, that guy's ridiculous.
Yeah, he's 6'6", 350.
He was laying on the ground. I'm like, how are they going to get this guy up?
He's 6'6", 350, and honestly, he wasn't that far behind him going stride for stride.
Oh, my God.
Their D-line is massive. So, their linebackers kind of suck, and their safeties aren't that good. I guess they traded for the Tennessee guy, but he has to be a hybrid. The corners are okay.
Byard.
Yeah. But if it's a rain game, like, let's face it, Josh is much more potent in the rain. Like, we saw Purdy once in the rain against a better defense, but it was ugly. Like the Seattle game. The Niners are in a different caliber. Like Seattle has to be looking at themselves. Like the Geno experiment was cool. It's made us respectable. Even though Russell's kind of can we put a nail in the coffin of that headline, or is like Russell still alive and not an embarrassment in Denver if they make the playoffs? Right. I don't know if you noticed they won also today, and they beat the shit out of the Browns.
You're saying put a nail in which coffin?
I'm just saying, like, they got a lot of credit for the trade, rightfully so. Reset the franchise.
Yeah.
But now they're like, Geno is not that good. Russell sneaky, not like he's as good as he once was, and clearly you never would have traded or paid him what he was traded and paid for that. But his team is kind of like going in the right direction.
Right. You would do the deal again if you knew how it would play out if you're Seattle.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying at the end of last year was like, fuck, Russell is fuck. Seattle won that thing. Yeah. They still need a quarterback. They're going to have to probably, like, this year, they're likely to be like pick 20 all of a sudden, like, the Seattle is traded up to number 5 for 2 picks and DK Metcalf to draft Bo Nix or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But they're not on your level. So it's like, yeah, it's fun to beat the shit out of them. And it was cool. But that game was over fast. It's like, God, this is kind of JV versus varsity.
Right. And that's not you can't play the Eagles. You don't get to play from ahead and then just put it on cruise control against Philly, right? Especially,
but I even think
Buffalo threw a pick.
But I even think like you replay the Cowboys in the playoffs, like they're going to just play in harder games. Obviously, it starts this week on the road. So, that field, it's just they play on grass. Mark Davis would be proud. It's a little slippery though.
Yeah,
you could just tell by the end of that game you couldn't even see the paint in the end zone.
No, and it's supposed to stop raining during the week. Right now, the week out, the forecast calls for rain on Sunday again. When the Niners are there.
Did you see the viral video last week of Sirianni in like the hall
The
after
tunnel.
the Kansas City game.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's crazy is their coach acts like a player and their quarterback acts like a CEO. Like even today, like Jalen would have like a sweet play. He barely even celebrates.
Well, how about after they
He-
tied? Well, after they tied the game, he's over there shaking his head at himself.
He's just unfazed.
I know.
I have more respect for him like when he's off. You know, it's anyone can look sweet when they're like their A plus game. Even Josh Allen today, you know, his A plus game also includes a pick. You're just like, Jesus Christ, this guy is physically incredible. I'm watching Jalen going, God, this guy kind of stinks. And then all of a sudden, boom.
You know what he is, John? He's a grinder, which the super athletic guys usually don't get that. You don't call them grinders, but he's a grinder. If he were a pitcher, he'd be the guy that like you look up, you're like, he always says he never has his fastball, but somehow he finds a way to strike out the middle of the order in the bottom of the 8th inning. If he was a golfer, he's like, his driver's really consistent, but he's a ballster. He just somehow finds his way into clutch putts at the end and into the final group on Sunday.
But it'd be like he's got like Jamie Moyer's mindset, but he's got like all-star stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And he always finds it. He finds it. That's the thing is like he's a great example. Like so many guys, you for years have used the phrase box score scout. Like you just can't. And even if you look at the box score now, it's pretty obvious. Like what did he account for? 5 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns?
Ran one through, ran 2 through a couple. I don't know.
It's just
felt like everyone.
Like a lot of people, as I told somebody today, like no team has ever won the championship without luck. So I don't care that there were 10 penalties in the first half against the Bills and 1 against the Eagles, and that there should have been a holding call, and like all that stuff's true. But the Bills played in a game where they got plenty of breaks also, and they also made back-breaking plays. I just felt like Josh Allen feels like a kicker to me who just you kind of know is going to miss in a big spot. And Jalen's a kicker who is just, no matter what's going on, you put him in there with the game on the line, he's going to drill it. I had no doubt.
Think about the swing
back that they were going to drive the field and win that game.
But even go back to the Bills drive when he has them open. And even Joe Brady's face was like, oh my God, what did he do? Now, who knows? I mean, it's your classic football. No one actually knows what goes on beside Joe Brady, the wide receiver, and Josh Allen. Like truly what you're supposed to do there. Is it truly a choice route? But regardless, it feels like if that was flipped, if that was the first drive and the Eagles had got the ball and that was Devontae or A.J. Brown, is that landing in their hands for a touchdown?
I think
100%. And honestly, the last couple
of years,
on
the same page in the biggest moment of the game.
The Bills have hit that play. Yeah, it missed. The Eagles I think, to me, are having the craziest season in the league. You're going into a team.
Great, you mean?
It's just like, how have they done it? I mean, their point differential is awful. It's not very good. Obviously, today won't be good either. I mean, their point differential relative to the 49ers, for example, let's use the 49ers are plus 140. They're plus 64. The Cowboys are plus 162. But obviously, the Cowboys are a little inflated. But I'll give you an example.
Yeah, they're the point differential kings.
I bet the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills, guy, are plus 101. Like the Eagles, they don't play complete games. Now, part of it is
they win close games.
Their defense isn't great, and their offense scores.
Their D-line's good. 1 by 4 against Kansas City. 1 by 5 against the Cowboys. 1 by 7 against the Commanders. Beat the Rams by 9. Beat the Commanders by 3. Beat the Bucks by 14. Beat the Vikings by 6. Lost to the Jets by 6. To me, a team that plays those games, this is not an Eagles-Niners comment, is generally more scary than a team that, like, because they just know how to play. In terms of the postseason, they know how to play in playoff. They're playing in playoff games every week. Like, that's worth something.
Well, I saw someone tweet that are they this year's Minnesota Vikings who had all these? And the difference, obviously, is we've seen this team do things that matter. Last year in the playoffs, they beat the shit out of the Giants, and then they KO'd Brock Purdy and beat the Niners by 450. Right? And they easily could have won the Super Bowl. So I think we respect this team. If Minnesota, instead of having Kirk Cousins, had Peyton Manning on their team, we would have looked at them differently going into the playoffs. Part of the reason is like, yeah, they're 13-4, but this is all fluky. Yeah, the Eagles have been a little fluky this year, but it's like you're just going to bet against Jalen and the receivers Like, to me, that's what makes the Niners unique. When they've been fully healthy, they have dominated.
Good
Honestly,
teams.
same with good teams. That's the knock of the Cowboys. Like, well, yeah, can you beat someone good? That's why that Eagles game in 2 weeks is going to be enormous for them. So the Eagles are playing now in 2 games where they have less on the line. Technically, they'd have more on the line next year or next week if they lose to the Niners. But I don't think it can be debated. And I'm not going to diminish the Niners' win if they win this game. But the Niners have way more on the line this week than the Eagles.
Yeah, because they have no margin for error and the Eagles do.
Also, just like while the Lions are leaking oil, so you're still battling just to make sure you're the 2 seed.
Right.
You don't want to play a road playoff game 2.
I also think, and this people are going to hate this, but I think the Eagles have a little. I think they got a little real estate in the Niners' brains right now. It's easy to say we should have won last year. We were going to win last year. You guys got lucky that our quarterback got hurt last year. But at the end of the day, you didn't win. And you got to come back and do it again at their place. And you're going to have to do it again at their place. And Sirianni, everyone hates him. He gets under your skin. Philly, just as a town, gets under your skin. The way the Eagles play in terms of just comeback ability gets under your skin. Are we sure you can protect your quarterback? I just...
Well, let's face it. If you're the other team fan or player or coach and that tush push comes out, you're like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah, well, the tush push is the other one. Like, it pisses you off. I think it's going to go away, but it's not going to go away this year. So... What
are they really doing? They're not really shoving him that much. It feels like he's driving on his
it's just
own.
a push, really, that you could outlaw. If it's going to be Kelsey and Hurts doing a quarterback sneak, there's nothing you can do about that. It felt like today the Bills, that thing got in the Bills dome, right? They had that 4th down and 1 or 4th down and 1.5, and the Bills jumped off sides and I think Tony pointed out, or Nance was like, the guy didn't pull up when he figured out he was offsides. Like, he was just sending, like, we're not going to get a stop. I'm just going to send a message, plow right through the right guard and hit he fell on Hurts. So, I mean, I think I think the one thing about this game from a Philly perspective is I think they're annoyed with the Niners and all the stuff, specifically Debo. I think that town is annoyed with the Niners. I think they feel like the Niners were sore losers last year. And you're right. Like, they have less on the game. I'd be surprised if it feels like it matters less to them.
No,
I know you're not saying that. I know you're not saying that.
No. Listen, the NFL is a huge game. They're going to try. I just think that this win today, if they lose this game, there would have been a shitload today when it felt like they were going to lose. I mean, I was rooting for the Bills. But
you're going to lose 3 different times.
The guy fucking drilled a 60-yard field goal in the rain.
It would have been good from 66.
Could Moody do that?
He could definitely get the ball to move left to right like that, except it felt like that guy did it on purpose.
So, I mean, obviously, if Lane Johnson, who tried to play before the game, can't play, that's a big kind of swing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's going to be – they're tough. I mean, it's a big game. But the Niners – honestly, I kind of feel like the Niners are going to beat them by like 20. Honestly. I feel like the Eagles are just going to run a juice. Niners are going to kill them. And then the Eagles just beat the Cowboys the following week. And
you'll go, what does it matter? Then you'll play again in the playoffs.
And it gets back to that 3-game losing streak that fucked the Niners.
Well, I mean, let's talk about the flip side of this is the Eagles' stretch is really tough. And as you said, they play in a lot of close games. The Dallas game is on the road. Now they're playing a Niners team that is healthy. Coming off a very long, taxing, tiring, physical game against Buffalo. Now you're going to play another physical team against the 49ers.
And they played Monday, right? So they're 6-day week.
Yeah.
They played Monday night, then they played Sunday afternoon.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think if you're the Niners, you got to say, I mean, obviously you're saying this. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion yet, even though you're right. It feels like the math just is not in the Niners. I mean, it's not in their favor. But given the physicality of it, you got to hope you can beat them. Then they've got 2 weeks of these brutal games going to Dallas, and maybe Dallas feels like they're in a desperate spot in that game. And then you get a little help, or maybe they go to Seattle. Maybe it's the Seattle game. I don't know. That stuff is just, they don't look like.
Where's that game?
Seattle.
Do you view Seattle the same as maybe you did early in the season? Because I don't.
No, no, they're not that team. I'm just saying they lost to the Jets, but maybe that was their one. They already had.
I guess when I say view Seattle, I view them as like a spicy little wild card, like a 10-7, who's just going to knock a team off here or there. Not in the playoffs, but just regular season could be. I don't know. They don't look the same. I mean, they're rolling out Jason Peters, who's 75 years old. I mean, I don't even blame them. They don't. Obviously, they don't want to do that. They have injuries. Running backs are banged up. Geno's just Geno. I mean, that's a problem for them. It's kind of becoming Goff Rams for them against the Niners. So I have a hard time. Now it's easier for the Niners, shorter travel. I mean, that's a long travel for Philly. So
coming off.
Do they get a bye?
No.
Has Philly had a bye yet?
Before the Kansas City game. So they go at Dallas, at Seattle. So it's just
so they got their bye, and to me, to find a way to win those two games in the way they did is pretty incredible because they easily could have lost them both. I mean, they could be coming in here 2 fucking L's, and the Niners could like put a nail in their coffin. All of a sudden, the Cowboys could be alive.
Yeah, the Niners could be the 1 seed right now.
They just pulled the shit out of their ass. I thought today was their most out of their crevices that they've had. Because also the quarterback, the way Josh is like running around guys, making these plays, doing fake passes 20 yards down the field. And it was like, God, they're just making enough plays.
Yep.
And then they didn't.
Did it feel to you like when I was watching the game, one of the things you're thinking is, okay, where are the advantages for the Niners? The pass rush, that first series, Jalen Hurts throws it away on 3 straight plays to start the game. The pass rush was all over him. I did watch it thinking, all right, like this is what a Chase Young 49ers defensive line can look like. Maybe they can land even on Hurts a little bit more than Buffalo did. But it also felt like Buffalo at the end. I just looked like they ran the ball like 40 times. But for the most part, over the course of the game, I think a lot of that came later in the game. It'll be a little bit of a different recipe for the 49ers. Buffalo did not really try to run much early.
Well, and how many of the runs are him?
I think 9 or 11, I can tell you right now.
Yeah, I mean, you get credit for a run, even though when it's not a run, you just take off, right? I mean, he does that probably more than any quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, so they ran 31 times and then plus 9 of his, a couple of them designed. But, Cook had 16 carries. Cook dropped a touchdown earlier in the game, too. I mean, they missed some opportunities, which you can't do clearly against Philly. But I do think Niners will try to run the ball earlier than Buffalo did, and will it be at least as effective rushing Hurts. But, you got to keep it up. Like, you can't throw the pick that Allen threw.
Did you have the volume on when Romo said that his injury is like it's like a bone bruise that's nothing you can do about it? It's just kind of pain tolerance, kind of ebbs and flows. I do wonder if as the game goes, a lot of times players would say when they have an injury and you get shot up, it wears off as the game goes. But for him, it feels like he doesn't notice the pain or gets looser as the game goes on. Because I would say early on in games, I've watched a lot of Eagles games, he looks awful. Yeah. And then later on in the game, he gets better. So does he just kind of maybe mentally just kind of goes away? I don't know. But that speaks to maybe early in the game, you got to kind of jump on.
I think Saban should have left him in.
I feel like that's an attribute he's learned in the pros.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever seen a player. It's weird to say. I mean, the guy went to Alabama and Oklahoma. But, like Josh Allen, he's improved a lot. Josh Allen was the 7th pick in the draft. And honestly, he easily could have been the 1st pick. If his completion percentage was 3 or 4% better, is Josh Allen the lock 1st pick? It was like, well, he's 50%. If he had been like 61, he goes number 1 overall.
Right.
Josh Allen, ever since, and for the next minimum decade, that guy is minimum going top 2 or 3. So he's improved a lot, but people thought like it was all there. Jalen was a 2nd-round pick that people thought they would. I don't ever remember a player getting so much better in like a 4-year span. Like Purdy was immediately sweet. When Purdy just came in, was good. He's better this year than he was last year, but he was pretty fucking good last year. Jalen, I remember watching when they benched Wentz. It's like, this is what? This guy?
The one thing he always had, right, was everybody believed in him. His team was behind him the whole way. And they play like it still. Even though, yeah, I mean, they do.
They got 2 sweet. Yeah, they got sweet receivers. I mean, those 2 guys.
And Swift here's the thing, when you watch them, they're fast and they're strong. So I know they're flawed and, like they're secondary. You said it. They are fast and they are strong.
That guy's good. That's a good. You know,
It is.
that's a. The Niners have made a lot of those with D linemen, right, over the last couple of years. Like, wait, you just traded 3 years, you know, in 2027, a 4th rounder. Howie traded, I think, 2025 5th rounder or something for this guy. I mean, clearly the Lions just wanted to give him away. Contract year, zero chance he gives them $8 million or whatever some team's going to sign him for. But every time you watch the Eagles, Swift fucking looks sweet when he gets in the open field. He can fly. And he's confident. You're just like, God, this guy's good.
He does. He runs like a Shanahan guy would run. Their whole team is. Their whole team believes they're going to win every game. Like you can see it in the way they play.
I do think the Niners have that too, though. When everyone's on the field.
They do. But the difference is the Eagles know that they can come from behind, that they can win in the rain and the mud, that they can be down against Josh Allen. That they can win close games. Like they know it. I think the Niners believe it. I know that the Eagles. I believe the Niners can. I know that the Eagles can because that's all they do.
You could argue. Let's just say, I tell you right now, the Niners were destined to be a 13-4 team, and the Eagles were going to be a 15-2 team. Right? The Niners cannot get the number 1 seed. Football gods come. Like they got no chance. Don't even worry about that. What if you just argue like it'd be big to get them to just let everyone know, like, listen, you can pull games out of your ass against everybody else, not against fucking us. We're gonna beat you, right? To kind of set the tone. So hey, in a month and a half or whatever the date is, when it'd be probably 2 months, the end of February or January, we have no problem coming back in here. Just like last year, I know we've talked a lot because we believed, but we lost by a lot because we couldn't throw a forward pass after the first series. I guess technically, whenever Josh Johnson got slammed, but even when he was in, it was a little iffy. And honestly, if Christian McCaffrey didn't have a run that looked like Jim Brown met Walter Payton, where he like ran by a guy, trucked a guy, and somehow got in the end zone, it was crazy. The game was even 7-7 there for a moment.
But that's Christian McCaffrey. Like you got Christian McCaffrey on your
team. Yeah. I know, but it was like it felt bleak at the moment when he had that run. You're like, God, I don't know. They just gotta hold on for dear life. But then remember, it was 21-7 because then they score and then Josh fumbles. And then it was like, Jesus, thing's over. Doesn't matter. You win this game, even if ultimately you can't catch them because the following week they beat Dallas. Even if you lose to the Ravens, who gives a fuck about that game? Because that game ultimately doesn't matter. Like, get to the Super Bowl, you got to get there. And you got to go through this team. And you got to beat them. So you could argue from a
if you had to pick
psychological standpoint, you would 100% pick Philly.
You want to plant some doubt in a team.
Who would they pick?
Philly.
No, I'm saying, would the Eagles over the next 2 weeks, who would they pick, you think?
They'd rather beat the Niners. Dallas.
They've already.
Dallas is. Get out of here with Dallas. Dallas might beat you, but like, you're gonna have to let them. I can't wait. We're 2 weeks away from Dallas having the ball down by 3 with like 45 seconds left and 1 timeout at their own 40. It's gonna be glorious.
Especially Dallas probably coming off a 20-point win in Seattle.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's in Dallas actually. They're
even better. So I think like there's that. Like play some doubt in a team that kind of's got we make fun of Sirianni, who I think is the closest thing the league has had to Jim Harbaugh since Jim Harbaugh, of just like everybody, his fans find him so entertaining, and everybody else thinks he's just a maniacal buffoon who falls backwards into success.
I even think they're on a different level because I mean, Jim played in the NFL.
Yeah, Jim had a lot more equity.
Jim Harbaugh, his brother was a fucking famous coach. Like the family just you said the Harbaugh name.
Totally.
People have been talking about the Harbaughs for 30. This Sirianni. I don't think everyone in football. I think Harbaugh had a lot of respect, like from old school football. I think if you watch Sirianni, like, what the fuck's this guy doing?
Telling Stanford, right?
Sleeping in his office. It's like, you're not even calling the plays. What are you doing? Go home. Get a good night's
nap.
sleep.
I'm not saying he is Jim. I'm just saying he's the closest thing since Jim in the NFL.
Is it that polarizing? Like,
who?
Do you think a lot of people, are paying
I think everybody but Eagles fans hate him. Yes. Absolutely.
I hope, because he's pretty hateable.
I think he's, yes. So I think you got to plant some doubt. And I think if you can do it the way the Niners, like the recipe, right? A little bit of just physically getting after Jalen, running the ball, Brock making a couple throws. Like the way it will look if the Niners win this game is going to it'll make up for the fact that it doesn't actually put you in first place.
You know what Sirianni's career record is?
I'm going to say it's.
I'll tell you how many
Is
games
this year
first.
3?
He has played 45 games.
45. I'm going to say 38. 30.
Little bold.
No, okay. 30. I'm not going to go much lower, though. I'm going to say 35 and 10.
Close. 33 and 12. He had a 9 and 7 first year. Or 9 and 8, excuse me.
Well, that's when he was calling the plays.
Yeah, and he's 14 and 3 and 10 and 1.
What's his record when he doesn't call the plays, John? That's
pretty good.
We don't know exactly when they took play calling duty from him or who even took it from him. We assume it was the GM. It looked like he was.
He's 24 and 4 in his last 28 games.
Wait, he's 24 and 4 in his last 28?
Well, they've lost one game this year. They're 10 and 1. And last year they went 14 and 3.
Wow.
I mean, he's going to have back-to-back like 14 and 15 win season.
Yeah, that's the thing. As much as he doesn't have Harbaugh's other shit, Jim's resume was very short and very great. He's not, he's like a year away from having Harbaugh's NFL resume as a head coach.
Like Rivera has coached 13 years as a head coach. He has 3 winning seasons.
Okay.
Sirianni's going to be 3 for 3. Like, has Sirianni done enough? Let's just say he got fired for something off the field, but not one of those off the field incidents like ruined your career, like Ime Udoka, right? It's like, what did he do? Well, nothing bad enough. Other people would hire him. Would he be like that, an immediate hire? You think? Is his resume so good?
I don't know. I don't know.
I would just hand a piece of paper and I just write my wins and losses.
I know, but I mean, would LaFleur be an immediate hire right now if the Packers fired him tomorrow?
I would say he's earned it back a little bit these last.
Yeah.
If they win 8 or 9 games, I think a lot of people would be pretty impressed. You can take a Jordan Love and just be pretty competitive in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like, if McDermott is fired, if McDermott's fired, is he an immediate rehire?
No. I mean, somebody really good makes him a DC at minimum, right?
To me, he's a second chance head coach for sure. But is he an immediate?
Panthers would be like,
He's coached there before.
I could see him connecting with their owner.
Do you think you get more credit when you're like an older guy, like Frank and Ron? They like immediately get rehired. Like, what the fuck? Because they're older.
I mean, Frank's resume was weird, but it wasn't terrible in Indy, right? Is he getting another job? But answer this question.
No.
Okay, Sirianni and LaFleur both available. Who gets hired first? I think it's LaFleur. He is the play caller.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing with Sirianni. He's not like, what would be interesting to me is, let's say like Brian Johnson is getting head coaching interviews and like they love him and he's their play caller. Would they fire Sirianni to keep Brian Johnson? Or they're going to hire Sirianni, who's supposed to be a play caller, his third offensive coordinator?
Well, they just had, Shane Steichen's a much better scheme guy, obviously, and Shane is winning games with Gardner Minshew. Regardless,
everybody wins with Gardner Minshew.
He's beating like the Patriots and the Bucks and stuff, but still, you're winning games. Did they ever have a conversation? Like, is it possible to do this, or do we just don't have a choice?
I think you had to have had the conversation, right? What do you think Howie Roseman did?
I think him and Nick just kind of work.
Well, it's the complication, right? It's like, that's his guy. Like, he brought him in, made him the coach.
Yeah, and then he starts kicking
Takes play calling from him. Like, he's in charge.
Well, like, here's what I know about the 49ers. They would not – you couldn't flip-flop. If you flip-flop, the Eagles would just be just as good, right? Because it's hard to be better. I mean, they're 24-4. The Niners would be dramatically worse.
I mean, their talent, the Niners do have special talent, but yeah.
But dramatically worse.
You have to tell me who Sirianni's offensive coordinator is in that scenario, because he's not calling the plays.
If you just flip-flop coaching staffs.
Yeah, they'd be worse. Yeah. Yeah. So, this is a big Kyle game.
Yeah, I mean, fuck, he's had 4 days. He's had 4 days off to think about it. So
big Brock game.
I had the thought today what has to be a cool moment if you're Kyle. You're probably home with your family to get to watch games Because you think about it like, a lot of families like balance, take time away from work. Well, when you're Kyle, obviously your kids are going to want to watch like that. We're fucking playing the Eagles. Turn on the Eagle game, right? So you're watching it with your son. Can you imagine the moments he's having with his kids talking? Because there's no way his kids are not watching this game with him on the couch, right?
Do you think that's what I did with Mike? Like that's why he's such a good play caller, because he's just in Mike's brain.
How'd you not be?
Like, is Kyle's kid gonna be a head coach?
Well, I mean, it depends. I think it's safe to assume it's going to be difficult for him to make the league. So if he does play college, I could see, like a UC Davis type.
No.
What if he's not?
He's walking on at
Power 5.
Yeah, name the place where Kyle knows a bunch of people. Like that's where he's going to school, right?
Well, if Kyle's still here, wouldn't he just send his kid to play Stanford?
You got to get in. Like that's the one thing you can't manipulate. That.
Well, isn't Lynch's kid there?
Lynch. I mean, I just don't know what Kyle's GPA was. Like I know what Lynch's was. It was good enough to get to Stanford.
He even said he missed school for practice. Remember?
That's right. He was too dedicated to the game.
So I can imagine that's a pretty cool moment. Short little bye week, right? You play on Thursday.
Yeah.
You get to watch your upcoming opponent with your son.
Yeah.
Is Kyle taking notes? Does he have a notepad out, or do you just kind of relax, take notes the next day?
Yeah. I mean, I bet he remember. Yeah. I mean,
Coaches sneaky talk a lot of shit about the TV copy. They think it's kind of useless,
which I understand.
But I wonder if that's more to belittle the media guy. Like he could still find stuff out about like the pass rush and
every media guy's watching all 22 and talking about B gaps now. So 3 tech
watching one snap of that.
By the way, somebody here said I thought it was a fun. I just love always talking about catch fumble plays. I thought the AJ Brown play was a incomplete pass. What did you think? At least like just knowing what the rule is, I thought it was definitely an incomplete pass.
Yeah, you got to take 2 steps to make a football move, right?
Yeah. He caught it, but that's not a catch in the NFL.
But his second step never came down.
Right.
It was like the play.
He caught it,
But it was like, well, Diggs caught it on the one where Bradbury knocked it out. And even Romo's like, well, but it's not the rule. Like, that's a catch.
Right.
And he's down.
Right.
Just like he caught it. Shouldn't those just both be catches? Like they caught it, ball doesn't move. These guys are both $20 million wide receivers, butter in their hands.
It's a catch.
But like, why isn't Diggs down? Why isn't Diggs down? His knee's down. I catch it. Isn't the play over or no?
If you're going to the ground.
I'm on the ground though.
Oh, okay. I just mean if you are not like standing upright. So if you are in any act related to falling to the ground, if you're falling to the ground, you have to complete the catch through the contact with the ground. So the ground can knock the ball loose and cause an incompletion. In that case.
Is that the same rule in college?
Survive the ground is the way they talk about it. Now, if you're up and you get 2 steps, now it's a catch. Now you go down, the ball pops out, whatever. You completed the play.
Yeah.
So, anyway. Big week.
Yeah, fuck.
I'd like to tell you I can't believe the Eagles won, but I can. At every point in that game, I texted you. I'm like, well, is Josh Allen going to win this game or throw 2 picks? He threw 1. But then the Eagles gave him a fumble back also. What happened? Are you about to make a Raider comment?
Yeah,
I saw it on your face.
Do they once a year? Because it feels like once a year. Last year, I remember being at sushi with Maria, looking up. It was Monday Night Football in Kansas City. That game, I think the final score was like 29-28 or something. 14-0 lead. Do they play with them once a year? It's like, hey, we're just going to tease you a little bit. We're just going to tease you.
Once a year, they're like, let's let them have this let's let them play with the ball for a minute.
This year was a half. Last year, I remember it was a tight game for the half. Or the whole thing. This year, do you remember that Monday night game? It's like one of Derek and Josh's finest moments in the Nell.
No, not really. Remind me.
It was Monday Night Football. I don't know. It was a really good game. I don't know what the final score was, like 1 point. It might have been a game-winning field goal. This was not the case. This was clear separation in the second half of, you're not on our level. We need to focus up a little bit.
31-3. It was 31-17. It was 14-0 Raiders, and the final score was 31-17. After I tweeted, John, new sheriff in town.
Didn't quite feel like a blowout, though. It didn't feel like if the final score was 31-3. I think he's going to get the job.
It definitely didn't feel like Antonio Pierce can't handle it, right? Kind of has a really good game with Miami. He's in it. I mean, he's playing with Aiden O'Connell,
who has some moments where you're like, I like this guy as a backup quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but it's not like you're not playing with Trevor Lawrence out there, right?
They're paying James Garoppolo a lot of money to stand there with a clipboard. I mean, James' direct deposits are big. You're making $30 million this year.
Indiana's paying their coach $20 million to go away.
No, he did a settlement for less. You see that?
Oh no, I didn't see that. What did he settle for?
Like 15.5, and someone's like, "In what world would you just give back $5 million?" They have naked picture. Like, what's?
Yeah, maybe something happened, or maybe he just wants. I mean,
just a good guy,
It eliminates. Maybe he's planning on getting a job that maybe there was offset, and he was going to get a good job, and he's like, I don't want to deal with it. I'm going to get off. Like I was not going to make full 20 because I was going to get another job.
Yeah, instead of owing him 7, now they have 2 payments over the next whatever calendar year, 2 years of $7.5 million. So he cut them a deal. Someone's like, the irony is that they can easily afford to pay him to go away, but they don't have any money to do the NIL. Like it comes from different coffers,
right?
That's what's kind of crazy about all these schools. It's like the NIL, anyone could, pay a certain amount, but like Washington can pay the coordinator $2 million to stay, but it's easier for USC to pay a player $5 million than it is to Washington.
It's not their money. I mean, it is in a roundabout way their money, but yeah,
what a world! I'm telling you, if I ran a top 5 program, Ohio State, Alabama, I would be all over Jaden Ott. I would stake my claim. Let's allocate a lot of our funds. Let's make him an offer he can't refuse.
Yeah.
I think his name is just going to be much bigger this year than it was because he wasn't that big of a recruit. 1 year, Cal, not as many people paying attention. I just think more people are going to be on the scent.
I just don't understand how those people weren't already watching the tape. They'll have to do better than just like a condo with his buddy at Cal this year.
I do think it'd be hard to keep track of everybody. Like if I ran,
but he was like, if you just watch football, he was breaking off. I mean, he had like multiple humongous games last year.
But if I'm like an SEC school, let's say I'm a good SEC school, like Georgia, Bama, LSU, how do I keep track of everybody? Like even the good players on the teams that we could clearly, it'd be hard.
You're right. You do start with guys you recruited. That's where you start.
Guys you recruited, guys you've played, and school that fires their coach. So like, is every Oregon State starter getting their phone called right now?
Yeah, they're going to Michigan State.
I wonder if he would feel weird about doing that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, once a guy's in the portal, what are you supposed to do? They're all going in the portal. So what are they? Where do you think they want to go?
Doesn't he have a young quarterback?
Yeah, Aiden Childs.
I think Schwartz was tweeted at me or something like he's going to fall in for sure.
Everyone thought he was better than DJ in terms of like just in spring football and fall camp performance. That he was just as good as DJ in the fall and better than him in the spring. It sucks for DJ because is he going pro? Like if he doesn't graduate, he can't transfer again. You know what I mean? Now maybe I don't know what his academic. He's been in college long enough. Maybe he is about to graduate and then could grad transfer. But you get one free transfer as an undergrad. He just used it where you're eligible to play right away to go from Clemson to Oregon State. You can do it again, but you have to be a graduate transfer to go somewhere and play right away. So what's he going to do? Now, guys leave. When their coach leaves, you hope the NCAA grants him a waiver. Is DJ about to just go to the league?
I mean, I don't think he's a draftable player, but
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. Or he just stays and their DC's there and you have one more year wherever. I don't know.
They named the DC the coach?
No, but I saw a list of all the coaches going with Jonathan, former guest of the show, to Michigan State, and Trenton Bray wasn't on the list. So people think he's just going to get the job, which makes sense. I mean,
I did think the other former guest of the show was going to go there. It would be Brett Brenneman.
Brennan?
Yeah, do you think he'd go there?
Well, what are they going to like? Yeah, he coached there before. He'd be a UCLA.
A better football program.
UCLA.
Yeah.
Right. They just built a new stadium.
Well, now you treat Oregon State like Arkansas State. Like if you went there for a year and Chip got fired, you could just go to UCLA.
Right.
You don't have to stay there long. You treat it like Fresno State or San Diego State. You're not tied there for long.
His losses this year were like SC, Arizona. No, they played.
Is he in the conference championship game?
No, but like almost was because he beat UNLV yesterday.
But it was a computer.
It came down to a 3-way tiebreak. Yeah.
So who's the game?
Toledo, who's like 11-0 or 11-1 or whatever. UNLV will host Boise State.
It was down year for the Mountain West, obviously.
In terms of like elite teams, yeah. Air Force had Air Force was the best team in the league. They were undefeated. Boise has one of the best running backs in the league. He got hurt for a stretch. They lost a couple of games. Now he's back. Legit. I mean, like really good player.
People were talking 2 months ago about Fresno State and the Fiesta Bowl, and now they're 8-4.
I sent a text to a buddy of mine at Fiesta Bowl. I think I told you this. I was like, can I get some tickets if the Bulldogs are there? He's like, I got you. And then they lost to New Mexico, who fired Danny Gonzalez. Did you see that yesterday?
Saw that. I saw his buyout was $180,000.
Yeah, I saw 200. Maybe it was probably
180 was like Terry Bowden or Skip Holtz or one of those type guys. I love like when they go to like 30 million, 20 million, and then like $175,000. Like after taxes. So what am I getting? $85,000
with offset, probably. Yeah,
that's an easy fire when it's that number.
All right. On that note,
buckle up.
Well said. All right. See you, everybody. Later.